Good morning, Teach Better family. It is super excited to be here with you today. We have officially taken over again. For some reason, Josh, they've allowed us to do this morning show together again. My name is Jeff Gargis. That's Joshua, _Stamper. We're excited to chat with you a little bit today and share some thoughts and have some fun. Hopefully get your day off to a good start. So stick around with us. If you're with us live, jump into comments. Let us know what's going on. What are you drinking this morning? What's waking you up? If you need to grab an extra cup of tea or coffee or shot of something, I don't know what your day is going like so far. Go do that now. We'll be back in about 30 seconds. All right, welcome back. This is your Teach Better Today show. We are live on all the social media things. And I'm here with Josh. Josh, this is our second show together. Yes. Yep. We realized last time that it was the first time they allowed us to be together. But here we are again. So I don't know if this is the start of something, if we're starting a revolution, a coup, if you will. But here we are. So anyways, excited to be here with you, brother. How are you today, my man?
Well, before I answer that question, you said shots. So what's in your mug, buddy? Are you having a tough morning this?
No. Just coffee, just coffee. But I figure anyone who's watching you and me this early in the morning has every right to do a shot of something.
I understand.
If that's what they need in the morning. Now, I could have been referring to a shot of espresso.
I guess.
It wasn't, but I could have been. A shot of whatever you need a shot of this morning.
A shot in the arm.
Yeah, whatever. So anyway, yeah. So how are you though, man? I mean, I got coffee. I just have coffee in my cup, in my Teach Better.
I have so much coffee.
Tumbler.
I'm on my
You always have
already.
so much coffee.
So
we have some late night meetings, but it's tea, right? You can switch to tea later on.
Yeah. I do. Yeah.
Sleepy tea?
No.
Sleepy time tea?
No.
Okay.
Just tea. Yeah, just tea.
Tea.
I just like hot drinks. Both,
me too.
Kind of like bookending my days.
Okay, so I want to talk about that for a second because when I was younger, I just remember, and I don't know what age I stopped caring, but I just remember like we'd have a dinner with the family, whatever, and my grandma would always get coffee afterwards, and she'd always get decaf coffee, and I was always like, why would you do that? That's so silly. Coffee's for energy and whatever, and even in my 20s, like when I 20s and the 30s, like when I started drinking coffee a little more regularly and stuff, I was still like, why would you ever drink decaf? Like it's for this. Now I have decaf in my coffee tray because I'm the same way. Sometimes I just like a later night to sip on something warm, and I don't like doing. My wife will do hot chocolate, and I don't mind like a hot chocolate. That's fun, but I try not to as much because there's just so much sugar in that. That I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now. Sorry, Grandma. Like I had to go apologize to her. I'm old now. Yeah, like it's interesting. So anyway, so if you like a decaf coffee, good for you. You just like to sip on it. Whatever. I do like tea as well, and we always have decaf tea because my daughter loves tea, and we don't need her to have any more caffeine or energy.
No.
Anyway,
so coffee late, it hurts like with the acidic too. Like I don't need that in my system late at night. So
that's true too. Tea is a lot better for that. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, I want to talk real quick. We're gonna we talked about we're gonna talk a little bit when we flip into the talk. We're supposed to get serious. I want to talk a little about like personal PD and finding like how do you find the growth that you need personally and like professionally, but as a individual versus like for your team or whatever. And that got me thinking, like, I know we've had conversations about it, but it's always been a little bit like a mention here or mention there. And I don't actually know if I know the answer to this question or not. I certainly don't know details, but are you working on another book? Like, is that happening? Like, cause just the other day I was on with Ray, like, and we talked about your book. In fact, if you watch the episode with Ray, you got to figure out which one it is, where I actually offered to give away 5 copies of all 3 of the books back here that I'm going to ship to people.
Wow.
But we're talking about that. And like, I was thinking this morning, I'm like, obviously, like, we were talking, things that people turn to for personal development stuff. Obviously books is one of them. And I remember several times, not just once, but several times in recent history that you've mentioned about do another book. So like, spill the beans, brother.
Breaking news.
And just so everyone who's watching and listening knows, I did not ask Josh if that was okay. Like, I'm actually asking him right now.
So I do have something percolating in my mind, and I'm trying to get it out on paper. It's funny that you are talking about this because Ray and I went on my podcast, Spider Lead, and we just recorded something. Hasn't released yet, but on the process of writing and just like how important it is for educators to put thoughts out to help other people and make them better.
Yeah.
Which is totally in line with what you're talking about. So super excited for that conversation. We went on a little bit long on that process, but yeah, man, I've got something, and I get like this, you know, writing a book is tough. It's, as you know, it's a long process. It takes a lot of energy and thought.
It's a lot of words.
Yeah, it's a lot of
it's all the words.
So many words. So I've had something that I've spoken on for 5 years with Teach Better Team, and then on my own at conferences. And yeah, I just feel like now it's the time. I think just Spider Lead's been a couple years out. I've kind of been away from that process for a while, and now I'm starting to get that itch to write again. So yeah, I put it out in my Spider Lead newsletter, just asked some folks for some input as far as questions on the topic. And yeah, I'm just kind of like put my thoughts together at this point, got an outline, and started working on some chapters. But yeah.
So it is a book that's going to relate to education. It's not about the Minnesota Vikings.
As much as I want it to be.
Okay.
No, it's definitely an educational topic. Yeah, I'm, and it's not just for like my book before Aspire Lead was definitely in line with leadership, about like becoming an administrator or becoming a leader on a district, to kind of get you to that next level. This is going to be for all educators, so it's not it's not just for a specific group. And maybe some like ties to parenting too.
Cool. Okay. And so when you think about that process, because you know I both know that process, so you got to write it still, then it's got to go through all the editing process and the proofreading and the editing again, and more proofreading, and then it gets put in some sort of queue to be released stuff. So like earliest time frame is probably a good 1.5 to 2 years out, probably, right? Like you said, like it didn't sound like you have it all written yet.
No, I don't have it all written by any means. No. In fact, while you were saying all those things, I'm like, I changed my mind, Jeff. I'm not writing.
I don't want to do this. You talked me out of it. I'm done. Which is interesting. Yeah. So I've had a book in my head for a while now too, stuff that is actually not education related, it's more business related stuff. But like,
sure.
And that's the same thing I go to. I'm like, that's a lot of words to write first off.
Words. Yeah.
And then it's just such a process, but I think it's worth it. And I think everyone's probably really excited for another book to come out from you. So that's cool. That's exciting. How much have you written?
I honestly, this one, I'm really scattered with my thoughts. So I have like chunks written out. And
have you laid out like, here's all the topics and like, sort of not necessarily chapters, but could be chapters type stuff, and you go in that route? Or
I actually have a mock cover too, because I'm the visual like Ray.
Yeah, so sure. Yep.
I sent her an example of what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of going through the process. This one's a little bit slower than my last book, as far as like, I was like gung ho on Aspire to Lead. I had the outline. I had multiple.
Yeah, but it was easy. You were like, A, I got to write stuff about A. Now I got to write stuff about S. Now I got to write about P. Now I got to write I. Like you had.
I had the model already created.
Right. Kind of like, I'm joking, but I'm also not, because I kind of did lay out like what you had to touch on. Right. This is a little different. So
yeah,
awesome. Very cool though. That's exciting. All right, so keep your eye out for that. Make sure you're following Josh and following the team, because obviously we'll be going crazy about that when we have any more details. Let's jump into what can I kind of segue into talking about books, but also a lot of other things, and interested to get your take on where you turn for your personal and professional development, stuff like that. So we'll be back in a few. welcome back to the Teach Better Today morning show. We are here live with you on all the social media channels every weekday at 7 a.m. Eastern time. Josh, we were talking a little bit obviously about you working on a new book and stuff, and we want to talk today a little bit about and just share some ideas out of different ways to go find that personal development. I'm saying like that personal PD, but personal PD related to that professional development, right? So like, where do you go to get better at what it is that you do? And obviously books are a way to go. And I obviously, hopefully, or else that books idea is not a great one. But right. So books are obviously a way to go. What are some of the other ways? Like, how do you go? And I don't know this about you, even though we spend a lot of time together. What's your go-to? I think I know actually your go-to when you're like, I need to learn and be better at XYZ in my profession. What's the first thing you turn to? Is it books or podcasts? Like where's your head go? Podcast? Okay.
Yeah, podcast and then YouTube, I think, are my two top.
Okay. And why? Like, what's the reasoning for those two in your head?
Yeah, podcasting. I've been listening to podcasts forever, and the reason I like it is because, like, for instance, for a book, I have to be very diligent, and it's like the only sole thing that I can do at that time is to be invested in that text. Mm-hmm. Whereas like a podcast, I feel like I can get other things done. And as everyone knows,
sure,
with all of my many kids and animals and jobs and whatnot, I need to multitask a lot. And so, or even like, like pretty much my daily routine is to take my 1-year-old daughter out for a walk with a stroller. Mm-hmm. And it gives me, some exercise. I get to be outside. I get very creative during that time, but I always have, my
AirPods in. Just able to put it in your ear. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I was talking to Ray the other day about like, that creative process and like taking notes, being inspired by someone's like, putting down with a voice text, like an idea that I have, or maybe it's a quote that they have said on the podcast, or mm-hmm. maybe it's a book or an article that they refer to, like, oh, I need to come back to that later.
Yeah.
So as far as like, we always kid like PD in your pocket, but it's true. I mean, you can get professional growth. I can wash the dishes. I can, do a million mm-hmm. different tasks and also have it in my ears and feel like I'm actually getting additional growth in that moment while still being able to do other tasks or on a drive. I mean, there's like so many things as far as the podcast goes that I think is just very conducive to a busy schedule. Whereas, if I'm watching a YouTube video, if I'm reading a book, if I'm taking a course, I mean, there's a lot of options out there, but those things I feel like I have to really sit down and be very intentional about intaking that information.
Yeah, I think I agree. I mean, podcasts, I think I most quickly turn to YouTube. But unless it's something visual where I need to watch a step-by-step, like typically I'm just listening, just like as if it was a podcast, because it's the same thing. And I do that a lot of times when I'm just here working at my desk for Teach Better stuff. That is more of the, I don't want to say mundane, but stuff that I don't need to have as much focus because it's stuff that I do all the time or whatever. You can have that podcast playing. And if you miss something or whatever, you just, rewind it a couple and you can listen to it again where like, yeah, to your point, like when I'm reading a book, like it's, you have to be in there because you're the thing that's actually retrieving the info instead of being sent to you. So, but you do dive into books, right? I mean, that is a way that you go. Yeah. Let me ask you this about books, because this is me, and maybe someone listening can relate.
All of my books.
Yes, you got lots of books. I got. You can't see as much of mine down there. You can see a bunch of mine down there too. I do this weird thing with books, and I think I've talked about this before live. I think I've shared before, but I very rarely read a book from front to back. Mm-hmm. And like so many of those books, I've got random or multiple bookmarks in because I'll pick up a book and I'll be reading it. And I'm like, I'm getting a lot out of this. But then I kind of like, if I feel like I've gotten enough of what I was looking for, I put it away. And then it's just like, well, it's there. And I know it's there. And I know it's got quality info. So at some point I'll go because I need that person's voice or that style of book or that topic. And so it's almost like a weird, never going to be finished library type thing, but I'm never reading it all. I don't know if that's me. Like, and my wife and I thought it's weird for her because we don't read the same books. Like she reads fiction. I don't read any fiction. It's all nonfiction stuff, like all this type of book. And so for her, it's really weird that I don't ever finish books. And for me, it's been really weird when I do finish a book. I'm like, that must've been a really good book because I finished the whole thing. Is that how you, like when it comes to this style book, is that how you read too? Or am I weird?
No, you're not weird.
You're not. And that's good. Okay.
No, cool. I'm definitely with you, brother. And again, it's like the intention is there to read the entire book, but it's just about time. And so I get interrupted. Like if I swear, like my kids don't pay any attention to me unless I got a book or a phone.
And then they know it's
then
time
they
to
want
bug
all
you.
then they want all my attention. So that's, and the podcast, I have the pleasure of interviewing so many different authors, and they'll send me their book, and I have every intention to read the book in its entirety.
Mm-hmm.
But that rarely happens. So, it's like looking at different chapters, trying to index like what's important, what do I want to gain from that, and then I definitely have a marker in there to come back to it, and then I don't. And like next to the bed, there's like a stack of books that I've again intended to finish that just continue to sit there. So I'm definitely in the same boat.
You mentioned you having the pleasure of being able to interview a bunch of people. So I want to go that route, because that's one I think you and I both agree on. I know Ray and I have talked a lot about it before, is the idea like that, obviously our podcast has changed a lot. It's really now where we house all the audio for things like this Today Show. But for the first couple of years, it was Ray and I interviewing multiple people every week.
Right.
And we always said like that was the best PD we ever got. And so that leads me to go, and I know you're shaking your head because I know you feel the same way. And that's one of the reasons you started it too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I think if you're watching and you're listening right now, like if you've never thought about that, like, don't get me wrong, there's work that goes into doing a podcast, so we could talk about that another time. And there may or may not be something coming in the future that Josh and I put together that'll help you do that. But the not just obviously the connection school, but the like up close and personal PD that you can get out of doing an interview style show, obviously, is incredible, because you get to choose what to ask that person, and you get to choose who to reach out to. And what's really cool is that you'll be surprised at how many people actually say yes.
Yeah.
Like, so that's super cool. I know you agree with that. I know most people that are talking, definitely, those that are on podcast network and stuff, they all agree the same way. So podcasts, books, maybe starting your own podcast. Other ways that you go to we talk about YouTube and videos in general. Other ways that you tend to grab that personal professional development. Do you go to other sources, other mediums?
Well, the podcast actually started from an idea of, we had kind of like this cadre, but it was kind of almost like a conference forum for several of our sessions, where we actually had forums where we'd have leaders come in and they would be able to ask questions to these folks. So, if you have that in-person opportunity to go to a conference or go to something where you've got the expert in front of you, to consume, I love the connections that are made, at Teach Better conferences. Like, talk about the connections that we had the opportunity to, not only go to their sessions and learn and grow from them there, but then also just like, the other times where we got to network and meet those folks and have side conversations with them. That was extremely powerful. The connections that I've made over the years at conferences that, I've maybe been connected with them on social media, but then to have the opportunity to speak with them one-on-one has been extremely powerful. Courses too, courses is something
online courses. Yep.
I love, because, we're talking about that time piece. You don't have to do the course from start to finish. You can just do a section of it, and then it'll save your progress. You step away, come back to it. So courses, I know, that's kind of, we have the academy here with Teach Better. So, we have a facet of that folks can tap into. But I've been on, specifically for Teach Better, consuming stuff, but then also, some other amazing educators have content out there that's really beneficial. And then, it was, for Jeff, like the Edupreneur group that, me and you have a chance to work with, like, just that other stuff that folks have, video format that, maybe they'll give a free PD and they'll send a link to us, and I consume so much that way too. So a lot of different ways to, not just YouTube, but there's other video formats too, where it'll allow you to do it at your own pace.
And I think you just touched on something also really great, and that's the communities, getting connected with more and more communities. And obviously you can get connected just in general through social media and stuff, and that's awesome by getting connected to a hashtag or just a group or whatever. Join in Facebook groups. Obviously we have our Teach Better group on Facebook, which is it's an exclusive group, but it's free for all educators. But we also have fairly newer launched, connected to our admin mastermind, which is our weekly administrator mastermind meetup on Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern time. But we also now have the the Facebook group connected to that as well. So when you register over at teachbetter.com/mastermind, you get the info to join us every week on the Zoom call. But if you can't do that, we also have the community in there. That's for school leaders and administrators. You mentioned our edupreneurs. So that's all part of our Edu Creator Club community, which is for anyone who's an educator that creates anything, whether you blog, podcast, create things to, curriculum pieces or to sell things online, or whether you, and it doesn't matter, I think to Josh, like one important part, it doesn't matter whether you are creating to like sell things or to like become a thing, a side hustle, or just creating because you want to share value. That community is great. So you go over to teachbetter.com/edu creator for that type of stuff. And then another one I want to mention right now, and actually timely that I'm thinking about it, is our ambassador group, right? And to be clear, like we're not the only ones with ambassadors. Like there's a lot of different tech companies and organizations that have ambassador programs that you get some cool benefits and you get kind of connected to people. I encourage you to look at that. We currently have ours. So if you go to teachbetter.com/ambassadors, or if you just go over to teachbetter.com/November, like the month November, we've got a whole bunch of stuff there, including how to get into the mastermind, how to get into the Edu Creator Club community, and how to join our ambassador program, which those applications are open right now for just another week or so. So I think those are all things you mentioned. Conferences, obviously conferences, any kind of in-person connection. Not obviously there's a PD that happens and the growth that can happen and development that can happen right there, like in the sessions and from the stuff you take away. But you also mentioned a really important part, and that is the growth that can happen by more connections to people there, which I think, in my opinion, is even more powerful and can grow into so much more. So, so books, podcasts, videos, online courses, communities, conferences. I think we hit them all outside of like some sort of device that like you put on someone's head and it steals their thoughts and information and knowledge. But I don't think we've got that one yet.
You went dark fast, brother.
I went dark real fast. My mind went to the thing that the Joker events in the Batman movie. Which one is it where Jim Carrey's the Joker or the Riddler?
Jim Carrey was the Riddler.
Yeah. Where he puts the thing on it and then So if you have one of those, like that's some great PD as well. So let me know. I could use it. Anyway, all right, I'm going to move on before I keep talking about.
I was going to say you're showing your inner nerd right now. So
bad Batman movies. All right. Anyway, appreciate you. I'd love to see if we haven't talked about something that you found, or maybe some specifics you want to drop in the comments and let us know specifically where you go. So maybe you have that podcast or that blog you go to, or that book you love, or that YouTube channel, or whatever, that conference that really hit you well. Share those in the comments. We'll appreciate that. You can also obviously tweet out at us at Teach Better Team, or hit us on Instagram or anywhere else, which is at Teach Better Team everywhere. So appreciate you all. Hopefully they let Josh and I come back on and do another one of these, but if not, this was a good two show run.
It's a good run.
I'm happy with it. Appreciate y'all. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
Hey, Teach Better community. Thank you so much for joining the Teach Better Today morning show every single weekday at 7 a.m. Eastern. We have so many resources for you outside of this live stream at teachbetter.com, including blogs, podcasts, and professional development that will bring our team to your school. Wherever you are listening from this morning, please make sure you are sharing and celebrating the incredible educators in this world. And hey, if you are listening over on a podcast to Teach Better Talk, we would love a 5-star review. The comments are always so entertaining. We'll see you tomorrow.